First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes a long and fulfilling relationship where ne'er the two nether regions shall meet. That's how the saying goes, right? In a world where love and sex seem to go hand in hand, what happens to those who don't experience sexual attraction at all? Today, we're exploring asexuality, or the community of folks who don't feel the urge to freak, or do in a series of specific circumstances. We'll get into that. Today, we're exploring what it means to be asexual, all the different ways one can express that asexuality, the community's journey to inclusion in the queer community, and why people can't give this group no respect. That's what you're in for today on Impolite Society.
I just detest rude, unladylike young ladies.
I hope you don't mind me being a tad rude.
I myself am strange and unusual.
Don't be rude.
That is some weird, wild stuff.
Shocking, isn't it?
It's a scandal!
But it's provocative.
Please stop making me blush.
Welcome to Impolite Society. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Laura.
And you know what, Laura? I think we've been a little too successful lately. I think folks have been liking all of our naughty topics that we've been doing. You can definitely see what you all are interested in. Topics like spanking, diapering, and cuckolding. We get it, guys. You like sex. Dirty, kinky, sexy sex. So, you know what you get now? Nothing. Nothing. A heaping helping of the opposite of sex. No, not masturbating yourself to death. We are talking about the absence of sex entirely. Asexuality.
Yeah, you perverts. You take this punishment episode and you like it. And you probably even like that too, don't you? You dirty little piggy.
Ooh, stop that.
And dude, like the downloads on like some of these episodes, it's like, okay, yeah, it's very clear what y'all are into.
Yes, okay, disaster psychology. I only read a whole book. Whatever.
Downloads.
Don't say the actual number.
Yeah, as soon as I said it, I was like, yeah.
So let's get into what your just desserts are today, folks. The big A and the LGBTQIA. And no, it's not ally, as much as they try to tell us that in our stupid corporate DEI trainings, just to make us cis people feel included.
And I love that because I remember having a debate about coworkers about what the A stand for. Like we, got some corporate email and we were all like, well, what is the A and what is the da 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 da? And one of my team members who was very much so of the Gen X persuasion, he's like, Q for queer? We can call them that now because I got detention in the 7th grade for saying that. And I just thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever fucking heard.
It's called reclaiming.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. It's like a reclaiming of the term. And,
yes, like when we say, hey, bitches, what's up?
Yeah.
And other examples.
I just said it, I think, when we were talking before the episode. I'm like, I cry like a bitch. Like it's just something, it's kind of like the R word. I'm a kid of the 90s. It's just made it into my lexicon.
Well, you can't reclaim the R word if you're not R worded. So if you're saying that you're using it in that sense, you're saying like, yes, my people rise up.
Okay, fair. But I'm just saying it's like, it's not meant with any kind of ill intent. It's just like part of the cultural lexicon.
We used to get busted all the time growing up. We'd be like, that's so gay. That was like just something we said to mean like lame or,
That never made it into my lexicon, and I'm actually kind of grateful it never did. Because it's hard to change. Once
it is.
It's like cemented.
But now if you say it, it sounds like vinegar, it feels like vinegar in your mouth.
Yeah.
It's My mom used to call us out on that of all people. Not that she has anything against the gays. It's just, usually parents.
It's not the older generation
that's more accepting. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, yep. She broke us of that habit eventually.
Go, Karen.
See? A good one. So if you're not in the know, right? Asexuality is a sexual orientation where a person does not experience sexual attraction to others. And no, this isn't just describing the phenomenon of marriage. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Sorry, that's my one joke I have to get in there.
No, but seriously, I feel like a person could pass through this. You know, it's a spectrum. So who's to say that women of young children don't pass through an asexual phase? You know, people joke about girls having a lesbian phase in college, right? So this is just another one of those phases. In college, you're super kinky and like into whatever, and you have some like relationships with girls, and then you get married and with a man, and then you have children, and then you go through this asexual phase.
And yeah, sexuality is a spectrum, and it could be a spectrum over the course of one's life. Mm-hmm. And I would think that natural hormones and risk acceptance and aversion also factors into that as well as sleep deprivation. So we spend a lot of time on this podcast looking at all the ways sex can be taboo. So you might think that the lack of desire for it would be the ultimate untaboo, normcore to the max. Insert 30 Rock reference when Jenna and her partner were normaling at the Bed Bath & Beyond.
Oh, you want to nap with me so hard, don't you?
How many times have you finished? 0. That was a good episode. Anyways, well, it turns out that taboos are like the earth. If you start at one point and you start walking in the opposite direction, eventually, if you keep walking, you're going to come all the way around back to where you started. Back to taboo land.
Everything in the world, it's a fucking circle. Too far, one direction, and I'm going through all the things that I hated, and I'm right back to where I started. I'm a big believer in the sanctity of circular shapes and all that different kind of stuff. I'm not into a lot of alternative whatevers, but a circle is definitely representative of a lot of things on Earth.
So one example that comes to my mind, and we could probably cut this too, because I don't know if it's necessarily something that we should talk about, but like, you know how people who are racist, right? They want segregation. And so then you get, you get all the way around to the people who are like so pro their racial ethnicity, and like pride is a good thing. But if you keep going down that train, they're like, well, we want spaces that are only for us. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, cool. So now we're back at segregation.
No, 100%.
I've actually seen people online be like, was it so bad? And I'm like, yes, it was very bad. And that's just an aside. And if you want evidence of this, if you don't believe the words that are coming out of our mouth and spoken very professionally into our very professional audio equipment that we have here, like, we're a trusted source, guys. So A, believe us. 2, if you need evidence, loser. But we don't have to look any further than our favorite TERF queen who's coming up again. We just talked about her in Society Chats. J.K. Rowling, the formerly beloved author of a still beloved book series. She recently turned her wrath onto the asexual community on their National Day of Awareness, nonetheless.
I saw that, actually, and it kind of took me down a rabbit hole. Before I even knew you were doing this episode, I do formally object to her being kind of negatively talked about as being a TERF, but that this is not the time nor place. Yeah, but she definitely got flack for that.
Right. And that's actually what inspired the episode because, you know, I'm a little bit of a clout chaser. So I'm like, I'm going to jump on this conversation if I can. You know, just a solid 3 to 4 weeks after it happened.
Keyword hijacking 3 to 4 weeks after.
We're marketing geniuses. Not only are we 100% accurate with everything we say, we're marketing geniuses. That's why we get downloads an episode. I think I'm going to leave that in and just bleep it out every time we say the number. So people are like confused.
Who's the mystery?
It's a mystery. Okay, but before we dig into why this concept is so taboo, now that we've established it is, let's take a peek into the lives of the asexuals. And to start, let's just plainly say what asexuality is not. Being asexual does not make a person celibate or repressed or that they just haven't found the right person who gets that tickle in their pickle. It simply means that sexual attraction isn't part of their lived experience, which girl, I fear I see a lot of myself in this at sometimes because I've never seen anybody in life and thought, yes, I would like to have sex with that person. Like, not even celebrities. Like, I can recognize that somebody's attractive, but that doesn't mean that I actually want to participate in having sex with them.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, right?
Yeah, totally.
And also, in a twist of fate, National Asexual Awareness Day is actually on my birthday. Wouldn't that be ironic?
The world's trying to tell you something.
They're like, girl, wake up.
I totally feel you. I may have had a kind of passing thought of being like, ooh, they're sexy, you know, and ooh, I want to blah, 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 blah. But that's all like theoretical. The thought of actually having sex with a stranger in real life, no matter how hot they are, makes my stomach turn. And the way that people talk about sex nowadays and like the flippance of one night stands and all that different kind of stuff. And I'm like sitting here like,
yeah, it's like that. Does not align with my lived experience.
Exactly. And so that definitely makes me feel like I'm a bit of a weirdo. So yeah, I definitely see a little bit of myself in this as well.
Nah, more so than any of the other ones we've talked about so
yes.
far.
More so than diapering, BDSM, cuckolding, you know,
so
name
how did
them.
two losers like us get into this field? Talking about all this stuff. We're super qualified. Maybe we're just trying to understand what is really going on.
Truly.
Because we're like, we don't get it.
I think that's the real answer.
The lack of desire for sex doesn't mean asexual people don't still want relationships. They're not priests, right? They're not living celibate lives or committing themselves to that. They might still enjoy intimacy or even have sex because sexuality and behavior are not always the same. Again, look at marriage. Others may experience romantic attraction, but not sexual attraction, or they may not experience either. So they may not want anybody or need anybody.
Okay, that sentence leaves me with a lot of questions, but I'm sure we're going to dig into it more in the specifics. But immediately I'm like, some of that giving me a big question mark above my head.
I think that is a common theme of a lot of asexuals. The asexual folks spend a lot of time confused because that experience is so far outside of what we are conditioned to believe is normal. And here's kind of the key to understanding a big piece of asexuality is that when we look at that piece, it's about attraction, not activity. So that distinction is crucial. Asexuality isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. There's a whole spectrum of ace life, which is what they call themselves, and the experiences within it.
Why ace? Is it short for asexual? But then they didn't want to include the word sex because that's inherently confusing.
Maybe because asex would be kind of cool. That's
yeah,
kind of a cool
asex,
name.
but they're like, ooh, asex, baby, and they everyone gets like all horny.
Shut it down.
Yeah, exactly. So they cut off the X. just went with ace, ACE.
Right. ACE, and it covers a lot of folks within it. There's a ton of different ways you can be ace. I saw an infographic on, I think, the official website or maybe the Trevor Project, and my eyes glazed over before I even got halfway through all the different varieties that asexuality comes in. And that's not necessarily a reflection on anyone's validity as a person, but more to do with my rotted brain. I was just like, I can't keep reading this.
I have also seen some of those charts, and it seems to me a lot like splitting hairs. And this is kind of makes me roll my eyes because not every aspect of the human experience need to be categorized in labels. I find it exhausting. I find it reductionist. People are super complicated, and classifying every aspect, I think, is a really impossible endeavor. It's like those fucking Myers-Briggs test, right? The ENTJAS. Yep. Blah, 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 blah. Letter soup. The they've always rubbed me the wrong way because I'm a person, man. I'm complicated. Stop trying to put me in a box. Nobody puts baby in a corner, Rachel.
Well, I think some people might see comfort in that, though, right? Because we're so keen on organizing that it's helpful to like not just know where other people align, but to put ourselves into a category so we belong to a community. Because if you're sitting here,
I'm like, don't put me in a fucking category. I think that's probably a big part of the disconnect.
some people want to belong.
I know. Fuck
They want to belong,
belonging,
especially if
but,
they feel weird
whatever.
about what their sex desires are. So they just want to fit in somewhere.
Yeah.
Or know other people feel the same as them, even though
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people feel the same as them from time to time.
Yeah.
But I digress. Here are some of the heavy hitters when it comes to the different flavors of asexuality. Number 1, gray sexual. A person who falls somewhere between firmly asexual and allosexual, experiencing limited or infrequent sexual attraction. So asexual is a nada, and allosexual is a yada.
It depends?
No, I think that's just like normal. Sorry, I shouldn't say normal. I think that's just your traditional person. Your traditional sex-crazed humans.
Okay. All right. The more typical experience. I like to think
The
of
normies.
it allosexual, ALLO sexual, but really it's like allow sexual.
Oh, they allow sexual
ALLOW.
contact.
Yeah.
Yep.
But again, being in the gray here, it just kind of sounds like being a human being. Not somebody who's not a horn dog 24/7 in a really, really sexualized culture. Doesn't mean I don't think that there's something different about you or something that needs a label. We all experience sex and sexuality different. And I mean, if you want to get a rainbow going, good God, you're going to need a different color for every human being and their particular nuances. So
7 billion colors.
yeah. So like I say, it just seems a little bit like splitting hairs.
Right. Yeah. This one definitely seems like, just human condition.
Yeah.
But don't worry, it definitely won't be the last time that shows up. Enter the demisexuals, who are people who experience sexual attraction only after forming a deep emotional connection.
I feel like this is probably me. Like, if you're going to slap a label on me, I guess this is me.
If I must.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, like any inclination that I have to sleep with somebody else is mostly because I know them already. You know?
Because you like them.
Yeah.
And they're not just like a body. And that doesn't seem weird to me at all.
And that's honestly probably how the majority of humans have mated.
Yeah.
Or do you like, and you think, I didn't even get into this part, but the evolutionary biology of it, do you think that at some point there's less pressure for women to be hypersexual because they're often in, societies where marriages are made and the pressures to procreate go beyond just the desire for sex? It's more of like this is my expectation. So libido isn't really not bred for, but like isn't really cemented in.
Selected for.
Yeah, selected for. So anyways, that's just all food for thought. So maybe all ladies are demisexual or life on the line sexual.
Yes. Whereas men, women just need to be more choosy about who they let in their box because they might leave a baby when they.
No kidding. The consequences are a little bit more severe.
Yeah. So yeah, the inherent selection of being demisexual as a woman would absolutely make perfect evolutionary sense.
And then on the flip side, we're really just going to keep continuing to put the genders in the boxes. Next up is the aromantic, who does not experience romantic attraction, which then, of course, is separate from sexual attraction. So this person could be wanting to have sex, but not really want to, like, settle down.
So they just want to fuck all the time, but don't care about them as people and don't want to be involved with them as people.
Yeah, they
don't
have
care
romantic
as that
connection.
Like, okay.
Yeah, but they just and it doesn't have to be all the time. It could just be like, when they get the hankering, but they don't really want to deal with the strings that come attached.
Yeah, that seems to cover a lot of people nowadays.
Right? Other people are complicated. Other people are messy. I don't want that. I don't have to deal with that. Next up is the agiosexual. Aigo? I don't know. I should have looked it up. I like this one and put it on the list because I think it kind of sounds like a dinosaur name. These folks feel sexual attraction or arousal but do not desire to engage in the sexual activity themselves. So these are folks who get horny and they like the idea of sex, but they don't want to have sex. They might enjoy fantasies or sexual content, but lack the desire to actually like go out and find a partner.
This sounds like me in high school. As soon as I read it, I'm like, okay, yep, I get this one.
We've all had that phase in our life. Yeah. Because let's face it, the real thing, not always up to the hype. And then there's the reciprosexual. Again, I like a dinosaur. A reciprosexual. Someone who feels sexual attraction but loses it when it's reciprocated. So they feel the attraction, but as soon as somebody likes them back, they're like, shut it down.
That sounds like a lot like self-hatred, to be honest.
Or like some self-protection, right? To some extent with that one.
Yeah,
and then
curious.
Finally, my favorite, the apothesexual. Someone who is averse to or repulsed by the idea of sex. Like, you know, maybe it's something they were born with, or maybe it's something they develop after doing, I don't know, maybe like 5 years of a podcast all about the way sex can get weird.
And this is the one that I respect, right? It's very clear cut, very straightforward. There's no question mark nuance. Like, no, I get it.
We're just like, nope, gross, not for me. No, thank you.
Yeah.
What's really important to understand with all of these different varietals is that, like most things, asexuality is a spectrum and is also fluid. So you can move within these, throughout these, over the course of your life.
Just like a lesbian phase in college.
Nothing is static, which is why putting yourself into a box doesn't make sense either, because just because you're in that box today doesn't mean you're going to be in that box tomorrow.
Yep.
But it's also important to note that sexual and romantic attraction are not one and the same. This is like a very big piece of asexuality. An ace person might have various wishes and desires within one area and not the other, like wanting love and companionship, but not craving the sexual gratification.
I think that's also pretty straightforward. It's easy to understand for me, but maybe that's just my daily lived experience being a mother of young kids with a man that I've been married to, well, with at least for like 25 years.
Yeah. I mean, everybody wants companionship and love, right?
Exactly.
In our society, that's often most like come across in a romantic partnership.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I could see where even if sex isn't your thing, you're like, oh, why you still want someone to choose me?
Yeah. Well, you just want someone to talk to.
Right. And the way it is, like your partner is like your number one person.
Yep.
So I get it. And then on the other hand, feeling the biological urge for sexual release, but not wanting it with another person or necessarily the mess and entanglement that they could bring.
See, that's where this all gets sticky. It doesn't make much sense. It sounds to me more like some psychological hangups or maybe some past trauma that's kind of getting in your way here.
Oh, don't say that, because that
I know they
is
don't
asexual
like that.
erasure.
I know.
And we'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, it can be multiple things. As in all sexuality, it's just some kind of, like, some level, a little bit of conditioning.
That's fair. Yeah.
In my opinion. I don't know. Who am I? I just have a microphone. So now I know what you're thinking right now. We've talked a lot about asexuality, and I know the question that everyone is thinking right now. Do asexual people have sex? And to that I say, why not? It's a free country, baby. But no, really, it is up to the individual on what they do and don't want to do, because, like, come on, that's how life works. But seriously, the answer is it depends. Asexuality is about attraction, not necessarily behavior. So some ace individuals do have sex for many different reasons, and that doesn't make them any less asexual. Mm-hmm. It might be to connect with a partner, right? Fulfill a desire for intimacy, satisfy their curiosity, get their husbands off their backs, or for the most pragmatic of reasons, reproduction.
Fair.
What? Sex for reproduction? I never would have thought of it. For others, the idea of sex is uncomfortable, unappealing, or just irrelevant. Like, they're not even trying to find a partner, so there's not even any opportunity for sex to cross their day-to-day life.
That makes a lot of sense to me. In any relationship, we all do things that we wouldn't do by ourselves for our partners. It doesn't even have to be our romantic partners, like sometimes for our friends, right?
Right. That's how community works.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, something like going to a nudist camp to pull a completely random and irrelevant and not at all, nothing to do with my life kind of example that one might do for their husband.
That's definitely not happened to either one of us.
Nope.
Don't listen to the Is My Naked Body a Crime episode. No, but that's very true, right? And I think back to, who was that old lady who'd come on late at night and talk about sex on
Dr. Sue Johansson.
Well, Dr. Sue Johansson, she might not have fly in the modern era, because I remember very distinctly a little thing she said about how men have higher desire and women should just go along with it because it'll make your man like you more. And you probably will enjoy it once it's happening. So even if you're not in the mood, you should just go along with it.
Yeah, I bet that didn't fly well to like 18-year-old Rachel, but now married Rachel, you're like, yeah, maybe she's got a point.
No, it's still like, I don't know. People shouldn't do things they're not comfortable with, but it's
not
just
comfortable with, but not like, yeah, you can't wait till you're 100% on everything in life. Then you just sit there and do almost nothing except for watch Netflix.
Sounds perfect. There's some truth in that, but sometimes it's just the truth itself is not always a fair truth. You're not always a fun truth.
Yeah.
But just make sure that this goes both ways, not just with sex, but with other things, that they're willing to do stuff for you that they necessarily don't want to do.
Legit.
And then there you go. That's partnership.
Yep. Give and take.
So another question for the ace folks that I'm sure our very blushing and demure audience would be far too shy to ask about is around self-pleasure. So just like sexual activity with others, masturbation among asexual individuals varies greatly. Some ace people masturbate regularly and enjoy it. Might be a source of like stress relief or bodily comfort or just a part of their routine. That must be freaking decadent to have that kind of time. Others don't feel any need for it at all.
See, and this is where things get confusing for me again. And I feel like I'm maybe going to get myself in a little bit of trouble with the aces. I know you are not the official spokesperson for asexuals and you've just reported what you're finding. But I got to say, this particular slice seems like something mental is going on. Like if you don't have that urge, that's clear cut. You don't wanna, your body doesn't wanna, bing, bang, boom. You just don't. But if your body is craving sexual release and sexual contact, it's doing the biological job that's expected to do. It's driving you, right, to connection. And then it's your higher brain then that's saying no or saying, I don't like that with other people. That sounds really more complex than just, oh, that's just how I was born. That sounds acquired.
Well, I mean, your body will have physiological responses. Like in the history of the world, a gay man or a gay woman has had sex to completion with a member of their non-preferred gender, right? So just because it can happen doesn't mean it. Again, it's about attraction over action, right? So it's about your desire to not have it with somebody else over your physiological need. Because that's what makes it orientation. How I conceptualize it is, you know how there's some people who live to eat and some people who eat to live? I am very much a live to eat person. Like, I love eating. I love food. I live in a house full of people who eat to live, and it's so frustrating. But then I just hide all the good food and just save it for myself. Suckers! And they'll never know because they either don't listen to the podcast or don't know how
they don't care.
Their little chubby toddler fingers don't know how to find podcasts. No, they don't care. And it's fine. I hide it all for myself. But somebody who doesn't care about eating, they still have to eat, right? You know, so they'll be hungry and they're going to go for something that's more about convenience and just satisfying the need as opposed to like setting up their kitchen and making a meal plan or making a menu and then cooking a gourmet meal.
Like my dad, who used to eat black beans in a can with a can of tuna in it, like mix it up. And I was like,
why do you hate yourself, Lois, Dad?
Exactly.
You're saying asexual people need to do some self-exploring. I think your dad needs to. What? That's insane.
He is eat to live kind of person.
He's an asexual of the mouth variety, the taste variety. He's like, how can I get my macros in the most efficient way possible? And it's cano beans and fish.
Yep.
I'm sure he smells great. Just kidding. I'm sure he does.
Fish breath and farts.
So does that kind of help at all, or does it still leave you at the same spot as before?
I mean, I definitely recognize what you're saying, and I see validity in it, but it still leaves me with some questions, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what the Q also stands for in LGBTQIA. It's questioning.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah, it does.
So we're all queers at heart.
As my coworker would get detention for.
We're all straight to detention. But if we're questioning, we're including, we're taking the word back. No, sorry. It's not my word to use. Okay. The thing about asexuality is that it's very customizable. It's all about the individual experience. So being ace doesn't dictate if somebody dates or not, has sex or not, masturbates or not. It just speaks to their experiences of attraction. And here's the thing. We get so caught up on sex, and not just the asexual naysayers or the folks who are the asexual erasures.
That sounds right. Yeah.
But those in the queer community also have played into this. So while the ace community proudly occupies that final A in the LGBTQIA, in truth, getting there was a bumpy road because most of the LGBTQ+ movements have historically centered around sex, specifically the freedom to have sex with whoever they want, however they want, as much as they want. With so much of the queer community centering around sex, asexual people were often excluded or misunderstood. Some were even told they didn't belong at Pride because they just weren't seen as queer enough. While sexual liberation has been a part of the foundation of the Pride movement, so has acceptance and breaking norms, right? It's not just about having sex with who you want to. It's about people who want to live outside the realms of what is considered traditional, right? So, and also it's about community. It's for finding other people who don't fit the norm either, so you know you're not alone. And that's why the members of the ace community felt compelled to fight for the group's place within that broader queer space. And in the early 2000s, AVEN, the Asexual Visibility and Education Network, was created to raise awareness for the ace community through events like Ace Week in October, and apparently their day of awareness, my birthday, where J.K. Rowling feels the need to tweet about them on Twitter. I'm not calling it what it really is because I don't believe in it.
Because it's stupid.
My perception shapes my own reality, and it's still Twitter.
I just don't understand why they would want to be included in a community that so massively revolves around sex. You do make a really good point about community and about living outside the boundaries of what's considered normal, which is marriage and 2.5 kids and da-da-da-da. It's just that Pride is so very much about doing the deed. So it seems to me, on the outside, to be something that they really wouldn't want to be a part of, seeing as their identity kind of revolves around not having sex. It seems out of place, like especially at the Pride parades, the Pride festivals, right? You have this asexual and proud booth and t-shirts that are right next to free condoms, HIV testing, the gimp suits and the strap-ons. It seems out of sync.
That's my whole thing with Pride too, because it's like that feels reductive, but everybody loves
totally.
It. Yeah,
no, I agree. I think Chipotle had this Pride Month thing. This was years ago. That it was like introducing our Pride Month menu, which was all about cleaning out your colon for butt sex. And I'm like, really? This is what we're reducing it down to? That I found that very offensive, and I'm not a member of the community. I'm like, I think it's more than that, guys.
It's like it might be helpful for some folks. I mean, knowledge is power, but at the same time, yeah, just like, how about we don't kick them out of our families? We just like accept them for who they are and not like necessarily be like, here's Qdoba telling you how to have better anal sex.
Yes. Thank you.
I mean, that's for everyone. That's for the gays, the theys, and the ladies as well, you know?
It's true. Equal opportunity, the butt sex.
Everybody's got one. Except for birds. Birds have cloacas, which is was going to be my fact for the society chats. But I ran out of time. And dinosaurs.
Except for birds.
They have one Swiss Army orifice. So
I did know that.
It does everything.
The cloacas.
Sometimes it's just, it feels like the kids that we didn't have our people in high school, so we found each other in life. And that's why the asexuals wanted to be a part of it. Because, yeah, like, why is the leather club a part of pride events and whatnot? And then, like, but then you have trans folks who are not about sexual orientation at all. It's about gender identity. And then you have the intersex people in there who is like a diagnosis. It's just, it's interesting. Anyways, a
rainbow, like you said.
Right.
6 billion.
Yeah, individual colors. And
yeah,
that's to say that if they can be in it, why can't the asexuals?
That's fair.
It's just all, yeah, anybody who's not cis nor heteronormative. Anybody who's
I guess that includes us, since you and I are demisexual.
We're now demisexuals. We got to get a flag.
Yeah. Should I get a flag?
Add it to my flag collection. So in the early 2010s, that is when asexual, like the asexual community, was starting to get more awareness and recognition. That's when that A finally got added to the LGBTQIA, which was around 2015, which, if you remember history, that's around the time that gay marriage became legalized. So I think they're like, oh, we got the big trophy. Now let's go through and do all the side quests. So they were like, we'll let the rest of these weirdos into our club so we can like help them out. And that says a lot, because when the other folks on the fringes don't really want you to sit with them, things are bleak. So what is it about having a lack of interest in having sex with people that rubs folks the wrong way? Before asexuality began to be understood as a sexual orientation, many doctors and psychologists labeled it as a dysfunction or a disorder. It was commonly confused with conditions like hypoactive sexual desire disorder, which is described as a persistent lack of sexual desire that causes distress in the person. But here's the thing. A lot of asexual people aren't distressed at all. They're totally content with who they are. It's society that tends to be uncomfortable. So you get these diagnoses. What were the doctors and the therapists doing to these folks? Well, number one, they pathologized it, which we also talked about that in the society chats. Doctors want to fix, right? If something's different, they want to fix it. So asexuality was often mistaken as signs of trauma, repression, or hormonal imbalances, including depression.
And I mean, it's one of those things that, yeah, that can be a symptom, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, if I was kind of feeling this way and, again, distressed about it, right, I'd rather check these things out first and just rule them out, like easy peasy.
Right, because if you're not distressed about it, you're probably not talking about it to your doctor.
Exactly. Yeah, why does he need to know? Or she.
Right.
I don't want to be exclusionary. Or they.
The surgeon said I can't operate on him. That's my son. How could it be?
I remember that from being a kid. And it's mind-blowing now.
So yes, the doctor could be boy or girl. Or
message us if you remember that. If you remember that in grade school, please message me and let me know that this just wasn't the Midwest in Missouri, that we were all like, what?
Okay, so after it's been pathologized, then that's where the medical intervention starts. So some individuals were subjected to hormone testing or put on testosterone or estrogen therapy in an attempt to correct their perceived lack of libido.
And again, if they're willing patients who felt they were missing out on something, yeah, give it a go, right? And if you don't like it or if it doesn't help, then you stop it. Seems fairly straightforward. But again, that distress is the key factor. Like, again, why are they talking about this to a doctor if they're not distressed about it?
Right. But also, like, back then times were different, so people followed doctors' orders, or maybe they mentioned that they don't really. Yeah, or they just mentioned that they didn't really have a libido, so they're like, oh, well, we got to fix that. And so then they jumped into all this stuff, and maybe the person was like, I don't necessarily need all this, but, I guess the doctor says, we used to respect doctors and healthcare professionals in our world. That's a two-way street, though. I'll say that. I don't always be trusted.
Yeah, 100%. Anyway. We can go on our doctor diatribe another episode.
Are doctors the next cops? Studies say yes.
That's a good episode.
Anyways.
Good episode title.
Anyways, all my young lady doctors I really like. So that's been...
I've never had any that I liked. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyways, but because they listen to me talk for 30 minutes, which is kind of another thing that happens to asexual folks in the past, is that they were kind of pushed into talk therapy, right? They're just made to believe something's wrong with them. So maybe the distress is coming from the external part and not like the internal part. So they're just like, I don't want to have sex. And everyone's like, you need to do something about that. And one of the things that wrapped up in that is talk therapy. So therapists would try to resolve this assumed trauma or internalized shame around sex, even when it didn't exist. And I guess the worst thing that comes out of that is you got to pay a high copay or something. Or just really be belabored about just an inherent part of who you are, and made to feel like it's not legitimate.
Yeah.
And then it would sometimes went as far as even sex therapy. So people were encouraged or pressured to try masturbation, watch porn, or engage in sex to unlock the attraction. Which I'm like, I think this is a taboo we need to look at, sex therapy. Because I did not know such a thing existed.
I did know that it existed. Dr. Sue Johansson on the late night. She is a sex therapist.
But the act itself is the therapy. That's what I was like.
Oh, what?
They're not just going to talk to you about it. They're going to they're going to be like, okay, now do it. Weird.
That sounds like sexual assault 100%.
Well, yeah, not in front of me. Anyways, that seems like there's a lot to learn there. And it wasn't until activists and researchers, many of them ace themselves, began pushing back that the tide started to turn. Books like Understanding Asexuality by A.F. Bogart and community-built resources like Avon helped redefine what normal could look like. Today, the DSM-5 makes it clear that it's only a disorder if it causes distress.
I think that completely tracks. You can think of it like kind of any other body thing, right? Like, so I had this bump on my neck. I had a lipoma. I got it removed last year. It wasn't hurting me. It's totally harmless. It's not cancer, but it distressed me for being there. So I got it cut out. But nobody has to do that if that's not bothering them. So, yeah, it's just like any other medical thing you can think of that somebody could choose to address or choose not to address.
Right. And everybody should be able to make their own choices about what they want to address.
About their body.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
And that's the kind of the moral of the story here, because many ace folks are perfectly happy as they are, but the world isn't always as supportive of that. Where does this kind of like pressure come from? Well, sociologically, we live in a hyper-sexualized society. Sex is used to sell everything from burgers to even toothpaste. The idea that someone doesn't want sex challenges a fundamental cultural assumption.
And I imagine the marketing community is the one that's really angry about this, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're sitting there, those fuckers are buying my products and I am using the tried and true formula of selling sex. Y'all are fucking with my quarterly bonus.
Yeah,
and they are just pissed off about it.
No kidding. They're like, if we can't use sex to appeal to you, what do we have to think about it? We have to know you and specifically design our content for you. Oh,
yeah.
That's hard.
Exhausting.
That takes more work than putting Jessica Simpson in a bikini on a car with a burger. That'll haunt me to the day I die. Well, this cultural discomfort is called compulsory sexuality. It's the assumption that everyone desires sex and should act on it. It's the same kind of systemic pressure that queer folks have fought against for decades. It's that what is normal. I don't get the hubbub around people not wanting to have sex. It does. I can't imagine why that would bother anyone. I see it as it takes all sorts, my analogy around food from earlier. But then maybe I am like a hypocrite there, because if somebody says they don't really care about eating, I'm like, what? Loser.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Why do you have to eat good food? That's because it's all about my shame, really, right? Of like, oh, you don't sit and eat a whole order of puppy chow by yourself? Weird. Weird.
Yeah. No, it feels like you don't have anything in common with them, right?
Well, yeah, like that and that, like I am like morally weaker because I just like to indulge in my baser instincts, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you probably nailed a part of the thing that makes people uncomfortable. And they're not hurting anyone. So what if you don't take part in some activity that people view as a basic human drive? What is it to them? Like, similar with food, I might feel like you're missing out on a crucial human experience, but so what? That's your fucking business. It's not needed. Like with the eat to live or live to eat, you don't have to have sex to live. You do to procreate, but that's, again, not a biological necessity, right?
Well, yeah, and you can just choose to have sex for that one purpose, right? That might tip you in that scale.
And but you do have to eat to live, right? So it's not, yeah, it's not on the same level. It's just a basic thing that it confounds people, like the people who eat to live. It just, I'm like, why would you do that? Like you said, I judge them. I think I don't have anything in common with them because it's such a big part of my life of like, I love food. I want to talk about food. I want to prepare food. Da, 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 da. Maybe we're food sexuals. You and me are just food sexuals.
Well, we need a word for orientation around food. So like, what's the people who like sex with everybody?
Pansexual.
We're pan-edible. Not edible. We're not edible.
Pan-edible. Oh, I like it because it's pan, like you would fry it in the pan.
Yeah, panivore, because we eat everything. And then your husband would be like a chicken nugget-asaur. Is that what he eats? Chicken nuggets?
Chicken nuggets. No, burgers.
Oh, only burgers. He's a burger
Pretty much. Burger, pizza, burrito. You just like checked it all off.
Wow, that's good for him.
It's hard to understand.
He's living his best life. Because, hey, if I didn't have any repercussions, I'd probably eat that too. I don't know. I'd throw some Chinese food in there at least. But anyways, now we're just talking about food.
Because we are panivores.
Yes, we are. Okay, before we go off for our midnight snacks after we do this, let's wrap this up here. Asexuality. It is what it is, guys. It's not hurting anyone. It's literally like, of everything we've covered, it's the thing that hurts people the least, right? It's like not even close to hurting people. Like they're literally sticking to themselves. So who cares? Do what you want or don't do anything you don't want to do in your own bedroom, whether that's slap on a diaper or sit alone by yourself. One thing I've learned, though, through this podcast is no one chooses to like the things they like in bed, right? We've had some messages from individuals that really kind of like brought to life how this could actually be a struggle for folks. So it just it made me realize that like this isn't necessarily a choice. And so it's easy to be judgy at times because some of this stuff is out there, but like nobody chooses it. So as long as you're sticking to yourself and consenting partners, like who can work with it. And if it's not causing you distress, let that freak flag fly or keep it folded up under your bed.
Let your freak flag fold under your bed or wherever it needs to be. You do you, boo.
That's where we'll leave it. So you know what would make us happier than an asexual person being accepted? A rating and review on the podcasting platform of your choice. Or if you're listening on YouTube, be sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, or I don't know, ring the bell or whatever it is.
Smash that subscribe button.
I try not to say it.
You've said it for like 10 episodes.
Smash that subscribe. Yeah.
Or you can send us your own thoughts on asexuality or whatever sexuality you are. We've been getting a lot of messages lately. I quite enjoy it. I think it's fun to hear from people. So rude@impolitesocietypodcast.com. Text us at the link in bio. We totally want to hear from you. Our friends that reached out, they know. We respond. We chat with you.
So social media is also a good place to reach out to us. I guess we should have said that too.
But Instagram, Facebook, all the like.
Yeah, we don't post so much, but we do check our messages. So we want to hear from you.
Yep.
And until next time, we hope you get all the action you want or don't. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another super sexy topic. Until then, stay weird and keep marching to the beat of your own drums.
Bum-ba-da-da. Let your freak flag fry.
Now we're just thinking about fries. These panivores are thinking about fries.